We are ready to move on to our next project, A Region Remembers, and we're going to start with Team Pink. And our lead juror on this is Shaniqua Gay.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Tiffany-LaTrice, and I am so excited to be here today. I'm going to be presenting with you all about our project, A Region Remembers, the Healing Hall. The Healing Hall is a convening space to offer healing and a path forward to memorialize COVID-19. Next slide. So you may be asking, what is a healing hall? We plan to partner with different regions of the state to actually find locations that activate different kind of open air spaces that has a central healing garden, which is a place to heal, plant, and release and convene and have dialogue. And then we'll also activate small businesses and storefronts to have artist-led workshops and different innovative space labs for different communities that have been severely affected by COVID-19. And then we'll also convene for a performance and dialogue so people can actually engage and share their conversations and really memorialize COVID-19. Next slide. So you may be asking, what is it? Like I see the image. It's an innovative lab space that prioritizes, explores, and presents space to offer care and healing for community members in the process of memorializing COVID-19. At the center of all of the healing gardens, the healing hall should be a healing garden, which will serve to unify, heal, release, and convene. And that space is curated by artists and led by the community. The space is also movable, flexible, agile, accessible, and safe to foster a sense of community. The objective of this healing hall is to be a temporary art installation that can be moved around the region and activate a variety of spaces, such as public parks, vacant lots, buildings, depending on what's available per community. Next slide. So why the healing hall? So imagine a space where artists can create innovative labs using vacant storefronts to host community sessions. Nature also provides a place of grounding and connectivity amongst community members. And imagine weekly community programming informed by the community presented at the center of the healing hall. And imagine convening communities that often don't interacting and addressing one common theme: how to grieve COVID with collective care and memory. Next slide. So who builds it? It's artist-led, it's city-owned, and the city determines the location of the space, manages the maintenance and security and parking. The city also provides the funding capacity to build the space. The artist is selected and identified through an RFP that is executed and initiated by the city. So the artist can make it what it needs to be. The requirements, as you can see, these are the requirements that we shared before. Next slide. And then our communities that we want to consider as top priority are these selected communities: the creative community, our seniors, our youth and teens, because we know they haven't been in school in over a year, the frontline workers, the LGBTQI community, the mental health care advocates, and small to mid-sized businesses, homeless population, and disabilities. Tamara, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Tamara. So we know that COVID-19 has affected Black, Indigenous, Latinx, and other people of color the most. In my urban school setting, I found this to be true of my Black and Latinx students, and it has affected their schoolwork, attendance, and emotional well-being. However, expressing their feelings through art this past school year has helped tremendously. And the community plays a significant role in creating the vision for the Healing Hall. And so how will that be conducted? So we will use QR codes. Surveys will be sent through community groups. There will be community engagement sessions. And then we will also conduct social listening sessions, presenting organizations that have responded to a request for proposals, art centers, and government entities. We will present the findings and inform the community that we have heard them, and it will be reflected in the Healing Hall specific to certain communities. And how will we invite them to the Healing Hall? Through indirect marketing, social media, and we will create branding campaign around the Healing Hall.
All right, so my name is Sonia, and based on the communities that we are considering a priority, we would identify nearby spaces and locations such as vacant alleyways, art centers, and storefront buildings to activate and implement lab space. Next slide. When considering stakeholders, it is important to increase representation across all demographics through the use of charrettes and open forums to connect with the community at large. We'd reach out to these individuals and groups to coordinate logistics, provide background information, and learn about the dynamics of the community. There would then be formal connections to establish with local government officials in order to permit the space and area correctly. It is important, of course, to encourage community and business buy-ins as we want to establish a collective opinion over a personal opinion and give the community the opportunity to take ownership. Next slide. Once the space is confirmed, it is during this time that it's important to host events and programming to allow the community to acclimate to the site and to highlight what changes might need to be made prior to the actual implementation of the healing hall. For maintaining the community garden, this is important. This is the part where keeping stakeholders involved is so important, so that the space continues to mirror the goals and needs of the community as it grows. Next slide, please. So for some geographic context, as a case study, we have Elm Street Play Lot, which was a rundown park in Richmond, California. And the goal was to use the space to allow for a deeply nuanced reading of the community's needs and potential outcomes. It was hoped that the arts integration and would address the health disparities and help residents express and create their vision of a healthy, livable neighborhood. An essential aspect of this work was bringing various stakeholders together, residents and city government officials, to work in a collaborative space. To maintain the park and provide additional job opportunities, a series of part-time and full-time workers have been employed to ensure the features within the park are functional. The community involvement and the relationships built through the project help ensure the participation and support of community, along with long-term maintenance and stewardship. Next slide.
Good morning, I'm Katrina. So when we think about beautiful projects like the Healing Hall, they are real and necessary ways for communities to come together and to support each other through real life challenges, but it's not free. So as we move to thinking of costs to create, implement, and scale these projects, we need to consider location build out, permitting, administrative costs, artist stipends, community outreach, on-site maintenance, and marketing. Next slide. So we also need to consider municipalities who can provide the space that is already easily accessible, work with artists and organizers to navigate permitting, maintenance, and potential build out, make sure that a program project budget range is already established prior to the RFP. And then once place and budget is identified, create various ways for artists to submit proposals. So a typical budget breakdown for public arts commissions involve labor, that's artist fees. A general estimate for artist fees is between 20 and 25% of the total budget. Other professional fees, contractors for the build out, materials and supplies, production costs, transportation and installation costs, presentation costs, and then other expenses like insurance and contingencies. Next slide. So where do we get this beautiful funding from? So usually there are multiple ways that we identify sources of income for build outs and projects like these. Foundations, arts and cultural organizations. What major donors can be considered: local, national, private, public. Does the municipality already have existing capital funding structures? Is there a process to accept donations like crowdsourcing for the project? And also in-kind donations are things to consider when looking at the project. Next slide. Lynn.
Hi, I'm Lynn, and I'm going to skip this slide because we're running out of time and go on to how it's scalable. We envision that each community would own their healing hall, but that there would be certain components that would be expected. Additionally, that we would hope to develop an exhibition in a box kind of concept. And with that, we wanted to share with you what people are healing from.
I was disappointed with the selfishness of people who thought only of themselves, their disbelief in the science, and the fortunateness of my family being relatively untouched.
I'm probably suffering from a little bit of depression, not being able to see a lot of people, visit a lot of family members. It hurts not to be able to touch base with people a lot physically.
I am healing
from the helpless feeling I have experienced as so many people have suffered.
My name is Tiffany-LaTrice, and I am healing from all the traumatic experiences that Black people witnessed during 2020 by being shot and killed by the police during COVID, and I wasn't able to be with my family and friends to grieve those losses.
Community isolation and disconnection.
I'm healing from being a Black woman, a Black mother, a teacher, and a leader.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you, and just that time. Shaniqua.
Pink team, that was amazing. That was absolutely phenomenal. Bravo, 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 bravo. I'm partially biased because I love any work that engages nature and creatives. One of the queries that I have with this is, because there is a grieving process that's happening, are you guys considering engaging maybe therapists and psychologists to be a part of this? Because mental health awareness is really key and essential. And while gardening and the arts are really amazing, maybe having someone actively engaged, possibly over the course of time, because this is so long and ongoing. Will there be someone to help communities cultivate this in consideration that they'll have ownership of these healing spaces?
This is Lynn, and we have in some of our drawings, I'm not sure how detailed what we presented was, a place for therapists and other community helpers to be there to assist people who need that assistance, or to assist people even in beginning to express their emotions. A lot of people, there's a lot emerging in literature right now about the shared grief that's going to hit our country kind of all at once as we leave this pandemic. And so we definitely had the mental health part of it as a component.
Okay, I have a question from Amir. He says, what incentives does a city have to essentially fully fund this and provide space for it? Did you consider working in vaccination opportunities with County Department of Public Health as an added benefit to the city so that they might be inclined to fund this? Also, do you envision this as a permanent or a temporary installation? And I think you guys may have kind of answered that it's ongoing and that the community will own it. So I'm assuming that permanence is a part of that, but he had some other queries.
Yeah, this is Katrina. I think when considering whether or not a city would fully fund it, activating a space that the city already has so that the funding burden is not so onerous is one consideration. And also part of the healing process that doesn't always seem like it's a budgetary concern is that though the city maintains it and funds part of it, it is a community space. And so shared responsibility of funding with, the local businesses that we mentioned being activated by it is also a thing. So we want it to be a communal space of healing and not just a burden for one thing, but the community, the city, municipality, working with spaces that they already have to activate is one thing.
Awesome. Dorian asks, what entity is best to lead this, government, private, or nonprofit?
So this is Lynn again. And I'd like to think that it would be a combination with initiation from a community or a government, but bringing in artists early on to help form the conversation around the community's goals and objectives with this project. And I don't mean numerical goals and objectives, but you're going to have communities that are looking for different things. But also there could be a role for an arts organization in the region to develop it, and then share it with communities as well. There's lots of different ways this could be developed.
Josh, have we timed out?
Just finishing up here.
Okay, all right. Thank you guys so much.